From July 19th to July 22nd, 2025, the Prince of Darkness lived through 3 days unlike any other in his storied life. These were not hours defined by illness, fear, or regret, but by a clarity so sharp and a love so deep that it forever changed the way his family, friends, and fans will remember him. They began quietly on the morning of Saturday, July 19th, inside his Buckinghamshire home. For months, Parkinson's disease had stolen his strength, his speech, and, at times, his awareness. But that morning, something shifted. Sharon later said it was as if a light had switched back on. His eyes, they were the same eyes I fell in love with 50 years ago, she recalled through tears. Ozzy told her they needed to talk about everything we've never said. She knew in that moment the clock was running out. What followed was a rare and powerful phenomenon doctors call terminal lucidity, a final rally when the mind sharpens and the spirit surges before the body gives way. For Ozzy, it meant 72 hours of purpose. He spoke with precision. He remembered details thought lost to time. And he began reaching for the people who mattered most. By midday, Sharon had called all 6 children, Kelly, Jack, Amy, Jessica, Lewis, and Elliot, urging them to come. They arrived from across continents, expecting to find him fragile. Instead, they were met by a man radiating peace. Kelly still remembers walking in to see him sitting in his favorite chair, sunlight streaming behind him. "Kelly, my beautiful girl," he said, patting the seat beside him. For 2 hours, they revisited moments from her childhood, times she had long forgotten. He apologized for absences, thanked her for her forgiveness, and told her he had always been proud, even when his illness or addictions kept him silent. One by one, each child had their turn. Jack described it as miraculous and heartbreaking, a father finally speaking words he'd waited his whole life to hear. Amy remembers him saying that they, his children, were his greatest achievement. Not the music, not the fame, but the family he'd built despite the chaos. That evening, he and Sharon opened photo albums from every chapter of their lives. He recalled the dress she wore the night they met, the song that was playing, the way his hands shook when he asked her out. They turned the pages together, weddings, births, graduations, and with each image, Ozzy told the story behind it. He kept saying, "Look what we created. Look at these beautiful souls." The next morning, Sunday the 20th, his mission expanded. He began making phone calls, not just to friends but to bandmates, rivals, and old acquaintances he hadn't spoken to in decades. He reached Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, Bill Ward. He called musicians he'd toured with and even those he'd clashed with, using his final burst of energy to make peace. Alice Cooper later described their conversation as the most profound I've ever had with another human being. By afternoon, the house was filled with music, not Ozzy's but the songs that shaped him. The Beatles, Led Zeppelin, the Rolling Stones. He wanted to hear the soundtrack of his youth and the voices of younger bands influenced by Black Sabbath. "Listen," he told his family. "The circle continues. The music never dies." He shared secrets of his own hits, how Iron Man came from a recurring childhood nightmare, and how Paranoid was born of very real fears about fame and losing himself in it. For him, performing those songs had been an act of survival, a way to turn personal darkness into something that gave others strength. By evening, he asked to be moved to his bedroom to see the garden he and Sharon had planted over decades. He pointed to trees and flowers, telling stories of when they were planted and what was happening in their lives at the time. Gardening, he said, had been his meditation, the part of his life untouched by the spotlight. He asked Sharon to keep it just as it was, as a living memory of their happiest private moments. That night, the conversations turned to death. Not with fear, but with calm curiosity. He told his family he believed love was eternal, and that the bonds they shared would outlast his physical body. "I'll still be with you," he promised. "You'll feel me." Monday, July 21st, was his last full day awake. He began by dictating letters to each of his grandchildren, messages they could one day open and hear his voice in the words. To his youngest, he wrote, "My beautiful boy, when you read this, I'll be somewhere else, but you carry a piece of my heart forever. Be kind. Be brave. And know your grandfather loved you more than all the stars in the sky. The effort drained him, but he refused to stop until each letter was finished. Between rests, he squeezed Sharon's hand and thanked her for every year they'd shared. She tried to tell him it was she who owed the thanks, but he only smiled. That afternoon, Geezer Butler arrived. Two men, brothers in music and in mischief, sat together for hours. They talked about their boyhoods in Birmingham, their wild dreams, and the improbable journey they had taken together. Watching them, Jack said it felt like witnessing two souls closing a lifelong circle. As the sun set, Ozzy asked his family to sing for him. His first request was Amazing Grace, a song of redemption and peace. They gathered around his bed, their voices trembling, and sang until his face relaxed into a look of pure contentment. More songs followed. Kelly sang Close to You, Amy chose In My Life. The room was filled with music, laughter, and tears. Before sleep took him, he spoke of Randy Rhoads, the guitarist whose life had ended far too soon. Ozzy told them Randy had come to him in dreams, telling him not to be afraid, promising to wait for him on the other side. Whether it was a dream or something more, no one in the room doubted that Ozzy believed it. By the next morning, he would slip into a deep, quiet rest, never to wake again. But those 72 hours were not about loss, they were about completion. In his final days, Ozzy Osbourne gave his family a gift rarer than any fame or fortune, the chance to say, hear, and feel everything that truly matters before the music stopped.